Whereas Edom saith, We are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, They shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever.
The British royal family has been flat-lie royal since 1840.
Explain that.
Flat-lie royal means illegitimate, not allowed on the throne. So, from the Battle of Waterloo, the British royal family lost all their money and they've been funded by the Rothschilds in exchange for breeding rights. So the Rothschilds had the breeding rights to the British royal family from 1819 to 2019.
So what was the purpose of the Rothschilds needing this?
The British royal family were virtually bankrupt from 1815. So the Rothschilds funded the British royal family in exchange for the Rothschilds breeding the royals. So the whole British royal family are Rothschild Batards, and Batard is the royal name for bastard. So what I did in my legal documents is I exposed King George V of England as being sired by Tsar Alexander III of Russia, and I exposed Queen Elizabeth II as sired by artificial insemination by Winston Churchill, who was actually the illegitimate son of King Edward VII.
Hang on.
I know, it gets too much, so I'll show you a chart.
Okay, so you've got it all laid out for us to see?
Absolutely.
Greg has produced a chart showing a surprisingly different narrative of the royal lineage we've all become accustomed to.
So these legal documents that you've registered and given to the British royal family, you've also sent copy of these to various other world leaders?
America, Russia, Israel, England, plus
And
the Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury.
And nobody contested these documents?
Well, they've accepted them all by passive acquiescence and cognitive avoidance, and they've put an estoppel in action on them, which means to stop due to the action, which is an admission. So the whole world has been acting on my documents, including the British royal family. They've acquiesced to my documents by removing their emblem off the Buckingham Palace gates and by doing a Rex Abscondus, and the Queen has gone into hiding in Windsor Castle for the purpose of supposedly the coronavirus. But the coronavirus actually means we crown him in Latin.
Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names.
Rothschild family. If you know anything about conspiracy theories, then you've certainly heard about the Rothschilds, from the wildest to the most plausible. One way or the other, the Rothschilds had something to do with it. I mean, if the first page of Google is to be believed, the Rothschilds have done everything from controlling every central bank in the world to even controlling the weather, with an insane combined net worth of $400 billion. Who are the Rothschilds really? Alien emissaries? Or just some incredibly rich people? Well, what they are is an international banking and finance dynasty of German descent. They rose to international prominence in the early 18th century and subsequently established operations all across Europe. They were even elevated to nobility by the Austrian government. So yes, they are just incredibly wealthy. But you probably guessed that. The Rothschilds' historical rise to power started with Meyer Rothschild, whose keen talent for finance eventually led him to become a prominent member of the global banking industry and installed his 5 sons in the financial capitals of Europe. They successfully adapted to the Industrial Revolution during a rise in economic growth throughout Europe, landing themselves an oligopolistic position in the world trade of oil and metals. The Rothschilds were so powerful they could loan money to entire countries. Their clientele wasn't your everyday wealthy lord. Nope, they were out there loaning billions to entire governments. In 1825, They supplied enough coin to the Bank of England to avert a market liquidity crisis. They granted loans to France after its defeat by Prussia, and they granted a £4 million loan to the British government after just being asked a few hours prior. They were, simply put, just rolling in that money. These days, the family has taken a more low-key approach to being a financial superpower, while spending their wealth by donating vast quantities of art to charity and generally avoiding conspicuous displays of wealth, especially after their surrealist party back in the 70s that'll haunt my dreams forever. The Rothschild family are without a doubt extremely powerful, influential, and cloaked in mystery, hence all the conspiracy theories. But whether or not they're responsible for the assassination of JFK or are fighting against climate change is for the conspiracy theorists to decide.
Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another.
So the Rothschild family is recognized today as the richest family on the planet. Turns out it's been this way for centuries. The family descends from Meyer Amschel Rothschild. He was born Jewish in Germany and then established a banking business in the 1760s. So Meyer was able to establish the most influential chain of banks throughout Europe with the help of his 5 sons. Together, they funded numerous global affairs and manipulated their way into becoming the wealthiest family on the face of the planet. These crooked tactics have been adopted by every establishment crony under the goddamn sun. And it's this kind of continued corruption that has led us here. I mean, it really did. Corruption has led us here, on the verge of monetary collapse and heading into an era that is chock full of authoritarianism and human exploitation. Now, as we all know, they set up central banks. They controlled them. A few famous quotes from the Rothschilds exemplified their intended goal, and I quote, "I care not who controls the national political affairs, so long as I control her currency." A quote from Meyer Amschel Rothschild. Well, I got a better one. How about a quote from Nathan Rothschild? Here we go. "I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply." Or we have another good one from good old Nathan, and I quote, "Who controls the issuance of money controls the government." I mean, they really took this concept to heart and enacted it. They own 165 central banks, including the Fed here in the US and the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Now, some are percentages of ownership, but the fact remains, they hold power and influence over the very fabric of our monetary system. So now you might understand why I said that they are the system. But the trend continues. There are several Rothschilds involved with global politics and within financing to this day. I mean, many are involved with the World Economic Forum, such as Klaus Schwab's Global Leaders for Tomorrow alumni, David D. Rothschild. And of course, the main topic for this video, Lynn Forester D. Rothschild. Yes, even within the new system that they are creating, once and if the Great Reset is accomplished, these same families are going to have an outsized role in it. They are aiding and more than likely gave their permission to birth the new system. Lynn Forester D. Rothschild is all about stakeholder capitalism, which makes sense because it offers them more control. After all, they love their fascism, which is exactly what this is. It's just a nicer way of saying it. Merging corporate powers with government power. And of course, the opportunity to continue lording over the world as oligarchs. I want to discuss relevant details regarding one known associate of the Epstein network. This individual has been coming up quite a bit in my videos recently, and her family, of course, is connected to various theories. Yeah, tonight we're going to talk about Lynn Forester D. Rothschild. One thing is for sure, the Rothschilds have been involved in much of the world's strife, and they have been conducting business behind the scenes for centuries. The Rothschild family can be directly linked to the development of this system. They are
the system.
The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?
For about 1800 years, the popes were not just the head of the Catholic Church, the spiritual head of the world's largest religion. They were also kings, pope kings. They had a secular empire, thousands of square miles of lands, their own armies. They built up a vast court around the pope. How did they get the money for this? They fueled it by taxing people inside their empire, by fees, and also by selling something called indulgences. A piece of paper was sold to a Catholic and said, "You're forgiven for your sins for buying that paper." Still, it wasn't enough money, and the popes had to go at times to borrow money from the Rothschilds, the preeminent banking family in all of Europe who was Jewish, much to the distaste of many Catholic cardinals who thought it was terrible to have to borrow money from the people they viewed as killers of Christ.